Evelyn Lancaster's heart pounded so loudly she thought the storm outside had moved inside her chest. Rain hammered on the windshield, turning visibility into a cruel joke. She clutched the steering wheel tighter, fingers trembling, knuckles turning ghostly white. The wedding dress, damp and heavy now, reminded her of the future she'd narrowly escaped. Every fiber in her being screamed for freedom. This was her emotional story, unfolding in real time. Lightning slashed the sky, illuminating the twisted, unfamiliar road ahead. Evelyn cursed under her breath, the GPS screen flickering ominously before going dark. Panic surged through her veins, mingling with adrenaline as she realized she was hopelessly lost. She was utterly alone in more ways than one, and that realization stung deeper than the wind-driven rain battering the windshield. This night was quickly becoming one of those touching stories she'd read, but never imagined living herself. Her mind raced back to the engagement she never wanted, arranged meticulously by her father. She felt trapped like a bird in a gilded cage, longing for the sky yet fearing the fall. But tonight, Evelyn had spread her wings, recklessly perhaps, but courageously nonetheless. The fear of the unknown was oddly comforting compared to the certainty of an unhappy life planned by others. The mansion appearing suddenly in her headlights seemed like destiny, or maybe something darker, lurking just beyond view. Ancient wrought iron gates rose high, imposing sentinels guarding secrets Evelyn couldn't begin to imagine. She stopped the car, engine idling uncertainly, her breathing shallow as she peered through the windshield. There was something compelling about the place, an allure both chilling and magnetic. Ignoring the whispered warnings in her mind, she stepped out, the wind whipping her hair, rain soaking her further. With every step toward the mansion, Evelyn moved deeper into an unwritten real story, one she couldn't possibly predict. The mansion's front door creaked open under her tentative touch, revealing a darkness so profound it seemed tangible. Evelyn hesitated, her pulse hammering against her throat. Yet going back was no option. The storm roared behind her, an angry beast driving her forward. Inside felt like stepping into another world, one where time had paused, waiting for something or someone to awaken it. She wondered briefly if she had walked into safety or something much worse, a thought she quickly brushed aside. Inside, silence enveloped her immediately, thick as velvet yet oddly unsettling. She shivered, the wet fabric of her dress clinging uncomfortably to her skin. Every shadow around her seemed alive, watching, whispering silent questions she couldn't answer. But Evelyn was stronger than she gave herself credit for. She refused to crumble, not after everything she'd risked tonight. Taking a steadying breath, she moved deeper into the darkness, unaware that her decision had just set an unstoppable chain of events into motion. What Evelyn didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have known, was that her arrival had already disturbed something hidden deep within these walls. The mansion held more than dust-covered furniture and forgotten memories. It hid secrets so powerful they shaped destinies. Evelyn's choice to cross the threshold marked the beginning of a journey filled with danger, passion, and revelations capable of shaking her world. As lightning flashed once more, it revealed briefly a figure watching silently from the staircase above, and Evelyn felt, deep in her bones, her story had only just begun. Adrian Thorne stood silently at the top of the grand staircase, eyes narrowed, observing the intruder below. The storm had brought him many unwelcome things, but never someone quite so intriguing. Evelyn's wet gown glistened faintly in the candlelight, her beauty enhanced by vulnerability. Yet Adrian knew better than to trust first impressions. This wasn't just another chapter of his solitude. It was the start of an entirely new, unexpected real story. She felt the weight of unseen eyes and spun around sharply, her pulse quickening. Evelyn's breath caught as her gaze met his for the first time, an electric jolt passing through her body. Adrian moved slowly, deliberately descending the stairs, each step echoing through the empty halls. His posture screamed confidence, yet something haunted lingered behind his piercing stare. Evelyn felt an instinctive curiosity, one that urged her closer despite the voice inside telling her to run. "You picked quite the night," Adrian remarked dryly, his voice smooth yet chilling. Evelyn hesitated before responding, fighting the instinctive urge to apologize. She wasn't at fault here, but his presence was undeniably intimidating. He circled her slowly, his eyes appraising every detail. It felt invasive, yet strangely exhilarating. Evelyn swallowed hard, realizing for the first time how exposed she truly was, both physically and emotionally, in front of this mysterious man. Though he agreed to shelter her, Adrian's manner left Evelyn uneasy. Every room felt charged, the air thick with secrets unspoken. Portraits lined the walls, their painted eyes following her silently, fueling her paranoia. The mansion was impressive yet oppressive, beautiful yet suffocating. The elegant tapestries seemed to breathe, whispering tales of past tragedies and hidden betrayals. Evelyn wondered if she'd become another forgotten soul, forever trapped within these cold stone walls. Evelyn explored cautiously, drawn to a room at the end of a shadowy corridor. Peering inside, she saw bookshelves heavy with dusty volumes and forgotten photographs. Adrian appeared behind her silently, making her jump slightly. His close proximity felt both threatening and oddly comforting, his presence a contradiction she couldn't quite untangle. He cautioned her gently, yet firmly, to avoid certain areas, a warning masked as courtesy, leaving Evelyn wondering exactly what he was hiding. That evening, as they dined awkwardly together, the storm outside intensified. Adrian's silence spoke volumes, each pause a story in itself. Evelyn attempted casual conversation, but Adrian's answers were short, sharp, his responses cloaked in thinly veiled hostility. The tension was palpable, stretching between them like an invisible barrier neither could cross. Every subtle glance, every brief moment of eye contact hinted at a deeper emotional story, one tangled in pain, betrayal, and mistrust. When Evelyn retired to her room, sleep evaded her completely. Her thoughts spun wildly around the enigmatic Adrian Thorne, his haunted eyes etched into her memory. What had turned this powerful billionaire into such a reclusive ghost? Lying awake, Evelyn felt as though she'd inadvertently stepped onto a hidden path, one she couldn't leave until it revealed its dark destination. Little did she realize, the key to understanding Adrian's pain lay hidden within the mansion, waiting quietly in the shadows. The days passed slowly, the relentless blizzard outside turning the mansion into an isolated sanctuary, or perhaps a prison. Evelyn found herself trapped not just physically, but emotionally, bound to Adrian's guarded presence. Every exchange between them felt like a duel, his words sharp as daggers, hers cautious yet defiant. Beneath their tense interactions lurked something deeper, something unresolved, pulsing just beneath the surface. Adrian had a knack for making Evelyn feel utterly transparent, his penetrating gaze reading her secrets effortlessly. It annoyed her intensely, yet fascinated her at the same time. She began wondering about his own secrets, what lay hidden beneath his calculated coldness. Every harsh comment he tossed her way hinted at wounds long concealed, scars from battles fought silently and alone. Evelyn wondered who had inflicted them and why they still haunted him. One evening, as they sat across from each other by the grand fireplace, Evelyn dared to challenge Adrian's icy exterior. She asked directly about his past, a question he deflected smoothly but coldly. His eyes flashed with momentary pain, swiftly masked by sarcasm. She recognized this defense mechanism. It reminded her of her own tactics, used countless times to shield her vulnerabilities. Adrian was more like her than she had imagined, and that thought unsettled her deeply. Still, there was a strange comfort in their shared isolation. Evelyn found herself reluctantly drawn to Adrian, despite, or perhaps because of, the walls he had built around himself. Their conversations became like careful dances, each testing the boundaries of trust, vulnerability, and truth. Adrian, though resistant, seemed to slowly unravel, revealing fragments of an emotional story that tugged insistently at Evelyn's heartstrings. She sensed he desperately needed someone to break through his barriers. One afternoon, Evelyn stumbled upon a room filled with half-finished paintings, Adrian's own creations. They were hauntingly beautiful, yet filled with melancholy, each canvas capturing raw emotion, anguish, and loss. Her heart ached, feeling the silent screams trapped within the brushstrokes. It was obvious these were more than art. They were touching stories, echoes of Adrian's hidden grief. What tragedy had stolen his happiness, leaving him forever painting portraits of sorrow? That evening, their conversation took an unexpectedly vulnerable turn. Adrian quietly admitted that Evelyn's presence reminded him of someone he once knew, someone he desperately tried to forget. His voice cracked slightly, betraying the depth of his suppressed pain. Evelyn's breath caught. This was the first time he'd willingly lowered his guard. In that brief moment, she saw past the billionaire's facade to the heartbroken man beneath, a real story too powerful to ignore. Yet, just as quickly as Adrian revealed his vulnerability, he withdrew again, closing off abruptly and retreating into cold silence. Evelyn felt frustrated and confused, unsure how to bridge the widening gap between them. But deep inside, a certainty began to form. She was here for a reason, and Adrian Thorne's hidden scars were a puzzle she was meant to solve. Something told her that his pain was linked directly to her own family's past, and soon she would uncover the devastating truth behind their intertwined destinies. Unable to shake off the weight of Adrian's sorrowful revelation, Evelyn found herself wandering aimlessly through the mansion. Her footsteps echoed softly down the dim corridors, drawing her toward a study she hadn't noticed before. Curiosity tugged persistently at her thoughts, urging her to step inside. The room smelled of old paper and forgotten memories, its shelves heavy with books that whispered quiet tales of the past. A small wooden box caught her attention, its brass hinges tarnished by time. Feeling inexplicably drawn, she lifted the lid cautiously, her heart beating faster as she saw the neatly folded letters inside. Evelyn hesitated, her fingertips hovering briefly, before finally pulling one free. The yellowed envelope bore a familiar name, Edward Lancaster, her father. Her pulse quickened, sensing she was about to uncover something life-changing, something deeply hidden. As she unfolded the letters, Evelyn felt the world shift beneath her feet. Each line revealed fragments of Adrian's past, written with a raw honesty that made her breath catch. Her father had not only known Adrian, they'd been close allies, friends, and business partners. But friendship soon turned to betrayal. Her father had systematically dismantled Adrian's entire life, seizing his fortune, destroying his reputation, and leaving him utterly broken. Evelyn's eyes blurred with tears. She was reading an emotional story that redefined everything she believed about her family. Painful realizations flooded her mind, memories recontextualized in brutal clarity. She recalled overheard conversations, subtle warnings, and odd silences at family gatherings. Signs she dismissed as insignificant, now vividly significant. Adrian Thorne was no villain. He was the victim of her father's ruthless ambition. The realization filled her with shame, guilt, and anger. Evelyn felt betrayed, not just by her father's actions, but by her own ignorance and blind trust. She suddenly understood Adrian's hostility towards her. It wasn't personal, yet deeply so. Evelyn represented everything Adrian despised: the privilege, the arrogance, the family that had torn his life apart. Each sarcastic remark, every cold stare, now made perfect sense. He had recognized her immediately, yet had allowed her to stay, perhaps hoping she would discover the truth on her own. Adrian's subtle cruelty now appeared as a mask to hide the overwhelming pain he'd endured. Her fingers trembled as she carefully placed the letters back, heart heavy with newfound knowledge. Evelyn was unsure how to face Adrian now, knowing she was indirectly part of his torment. Her thoughts raced chaotically. Should she confront him? Would he even listen? Or had her father's betrayal closed Adrian off forever? This was one of those touching stories that demanded courage, honesty, and a willingness to accept responsibility, no matter how painful. Yet Evelyn knew one thing clearly. She could no longer hide from reality. The storm outside had calmed slightly, but the storm within her soul was just beginning. Adrian Thorne deserved answers and justice, but Evelyn herself needed truth more desperately. Stepping away from the box, she steeled herself, aware that her next encounter with Adrian would be unlike anything she'd experienced so far. The mansion's silence, now more oppressive than ever, seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. Evelyn couldn't avoid Adrian forever, not after everything she'd discovered. Their paths crossed again that night in the softly illuminated hallway, shadows dancing across Adrian's face, accentuating his troubled expression. Evelyn's heart tightened painfully, conflicted by guilt and compassion. His gaze, though guarded, betrayed an internal battle, as if Adrian himself were at war with his own emotions. "You read them, didn't you?" Adrian's voice was calm, deceptively so, carrying a note of resignation rather than accusation. Evelyn nodded slowly, unable to form words at first. She finally managed a whispered apology, feeling inadequate yet genuine. Adrian stepped closer, his eyes searching hers as though seeking confirmation of something deeper, something he hesitated to reveal. "You look like him, you know," Adrian murmured, a faint, bitter smile forming on his lips. His statement stung. Evelyn didn't want to resemble her father, especially now. Adrian sensed her distress and softened momentarily, his fingertips gently brushing her cheek, startling them both. This unexpected tenderness ignited a spark neither was prepared for, igniting feelings they had both desperately tried to suppress. Without thinking, Evelyn closed the distance between them, compelled by emotions beyond her control. Their lips met urgently, passionately, as if each sought solace from their personal storms. The kiss was intense and bittersweet, filled equally with desire and despair, a collision of opposing worlds. Yet, as quickly as it began, Adrian pulled away abruptly, leaving Evelyn breathless, confused, and aching for more. His expression shifted swiftly from vulnerability to anger, a harsh mask slipping back into place. "This was a mistake," Adrian growled, stepping back further, his eyes ablaze with fury, mostly directed at himself. Evelyn, hurt and confused, reached out instinctively, but he retreated again, putting emotional and physical distance between them. His voice trembled slightly as he accused her of representing the painful memories he'd spent years trying to forget. Evelyn's heart sank, feeling as if a wall had been violently erected between them again. She desperately pleaded with Adrian, assuring him she wasn't like her father, begging him to see her as her own person, separate from past sins. But Adrian shook his head sharply, visibly tormented, unwilling, or unable to separate her identity from the betrayal he'd endured. His rejection cut deeper than any harsh words, leaving Evelyn wounded, raw, and hopeless. That night, sleep was impossible, the memory of Adrian's kiss haunting her thoughts relentlessly. Evelyn knew she had glimpsed something real in that fleeting moment, something worth fighting for. But how could she break through Adrian's defenses when his scars ran so deep? She lay awake, silently hoping Adrian would eventually see past his pain and recognize the woman she truly was. Unknown to her, Adrian was similarly restless, grappling silently with the realization that Evelyn had awakened something he thought was long dead. The morning sunlight sliced gently through the clouds, illuminating the mansion's grand entrance. Evelyn stood silently by the doorway, suitcase in hand, heavy-hearted yet strangely resolved. Her brief encounter with Adrian had changed her irrevocably, tearing away the blindfold she'd worn her entire life. She felt older, wiser, and infinitely stronger, even if that strength came tinged with sadness. Adrian stood silently at a distance, his expression unreadable, eyes shadowed with regret. Evelyn wished desperately that things could have ended differently, but she recognized that both of them needed time and distance to heal. Their shared emotional story had taken them through intense highs and devastating lows, leaving scars and memories neither could simply erase or ignore. Evelyn stepped outside, inhaling deeply the crisp air, a bittersweet mixture of freedom and heartbreak filling her lungs. She realized, with sudden clarity, that Adrian's pain had indirectly freed her, forced her to confront truths she would otherwise have ignored. Although the pain of leaving him behind was sharp, she knew staying was impossible, at least for now. Evelyn understood she had a greater battle to fight, one that began at home. Returning to the city felt surreal, like stepping into someone else's life. Evelyn had left as a runaway bride, but now returned transformed, a woman fully aware of her worth, her voice, and her power. News of her return spread quickly, the media eagerly anticipating her next move. Her family's influence felt suffocating, yet she no longer feared it. She had become stronger than the cage they'd built around her. Facing her father at the press conference took immense courage, but Evelyn stood firm, determination burning fiercely within her. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered excitedly, but her voice never faltered as she publicly rejected the arranged engagement, reclaiming control of her own destiny. Evelyn's declaration stunned everyone, not least of all Edward Lancaster himself, whose shocked silence spoke louder than any denial. Adrian had given Evelyn an unexpected gift, the strength to break free from her father's oppressive legacy. Though they were apart, she felt strangely connected to Adrian, carrying the lessons learned within the mansion's shadowed halls. Their paths might cross again, or perhaps fate had already played its role, leaving them forever changed by their brief yet powerful connection. That night, Evelyn stood by her apartment window, watching the city lights glitter below, reflecting on the real story she'd lived. She pondered whether Adrian thought of her as well, if he recognized the transformation he'd sparked. Evelyn felt certain their emotional journey wasn't completely over. Deep down, she knew destiny had more in store for both of them, a story yet unfinished, one waiting patiently in the wings for another stormy night. So what did you think? Can you imagine how you'd feel if you uncovered secrets powerful enough to change your entire life? Would you have stayed to fight, or would you have run away, just like Evelyn did? Share your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you'd do if faced with this situation. And hey, if you enjoyed diving into this emotional roller coaster, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, there are plenty more touching stories and thrilling revelations coming your way soon. I promise you won't want to miss the next real story we uncover together. See you in the comments.